YouTube. Welcome back. Justin here, aka Player Prop Savant, and my guy Monotone, back for already week 6. We're at week 6, flying by through this season. Right, we have 17 weeks this year, though, right? I think we have 17.
Yep. Which means we get an extra couple, and it's nice.
Yeah, so everything's good. Let's take a look. We got some people in here already. Buck Dancer in here, ready to roll.
Appreciate that.
Doing good, Matt. Yeah, I'm hoping. We need a big week. I dropped the ball. It was my turn to drop the ball this week or last week. So, just a little bit. We're gonna wait a little bit, about a minute or so, to get a couple more people in. Just had to send a tweet out quick as well, get everything ready. Disappointing week for your boy with the Brewers going down. I'm sweating in my heartbreak here. So, it should be good. Yep, every week. Yep, we're gonna keep it rolling. And then Mono Bank, I love that. I like that name. But yeah, so I know you dropped the teaser tweet, right, of what our name would be here. I'll let you drop it. I'll let you drop it for the people. Kind of in the middle of both, I think, right in the middle of two.
Yeah, we want your guys' feedback right here. So we're in the middle between pass the prop or passing the props. So props, we got we can curse on here. We got fucking 6 props a week. It probably should be plural, but pass the prop also sounds a little bit clean. So we want to hear your guys' opinion on that one. If you let us know whether you like passing the props or pass the prop, but we're going with one of those two. We finally got the name figured out. It only took us 6 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It's just weird because it's like they both sound good. Now we just got to pick one. I'm terrible at decisions. I'm always in the middle on those.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get a couple answers on that before the end of the show today. There's a lot of props I like this week. Yeah, there's a lot of spots. This week. A little weird with our first round of bye weeks, though. So that's definitely, I was looking through and I'm like, I only have like 6 games to look through that are actually good prop games,
Mm-hmm.
I heard massive prop parlays cure sadness. Well, I need to hit one because last week I had a plus 3,000 on Monday Night Football. Hit everything. Mark Andrews touchdown, Mark Andrews yards, everything. Lamar gets tackled on the 1 in overtime and loses it to me. So that was sadness. That was so sad. We got past the prop vote. Yep. I think past the prop is getting the most of the love here. I think the cleanness, especially as a Twitter. Yeah.
Sounds good. Looks like they made up our minds for us, right? We don't even have to make decisions here. It's great.
Yeah, no, we let everybody else do it for us. We just pick the plays. You guys let us know everything else.
Yep. That's the way.
Yeah, we got a decent amount of people looking like 74 over on YouTube right now in here. We appreciate you guys popping in here every week. Like I said, week 6 flying by already, and our record has been doing pretty hot, right? 24-11 overall between us two. I mean, I think we're both pretty close. I think I have 5 of those losses and you have 6, but you also have more plays than me from week 1. So our percentages are damn close. And it's going pretty well. I mean, the units are still going up. Unfortunately, injury bug is hit both of us on plays in these last 2 weeks. CEH, I believe, is IR'd now.
Yeah.
Which I feel kind of bad because I was bitching out at him when he went out. I'm like, oh my God. I just started calling him a bunch of names and I'm like, damn, I should not get like this. He wasn't doing well anyway. But one of my biggest pet peeves on there is when people start like saying he's not going to get there because he started really bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, he only needs 50 yards, man. He's at 15 and it's the third quarter. Like all it takes is 2 runs and you're already there. I'm like, I was getting so many messages like he wasn't going to get there anyway. I'm like, dude, all it takes is 1.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that.
I get a similar thing too. I've been playing a lot of longest reception props recently. And people are like, oh, well, it's the third quarter. He's not going to get there. It's like, well, a longest reception prop needs 1 pass, right? It's not like we're asking for 6 passes in the fourth quarter, So I don't know. It's just stick with us. We got it. We know what we're doing.
All right. Last thing before we get to picks, guys, just going to run through our last stuff here. You make the money, we do administrative. Yep, that's what I like it. I like it. Oh, dude, you know what sucked though is I saw everybody on the rushing yards. I didn't touch any Jonathan Taylor except for touchdowns, so that was the only thing I needed. Thank God. And I had, if you combine my 2 Carson Wentz plays, it was a max play. I had over 20 and a half completions for 1.5, and I have a 3-unit max, so I have 1.5 on that and 1.5 on yards. It was 226, dude. First play, he drops that 75-yard touchdown. I'm like, dude, I was freaking out. He was my biggest play by far of that game.
That's awesome.
Kadarius, yeah, dude, he nuked, and then he freaking got tossed. Right, he punched a guy in the face. I love that with a helmet.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about that guy. He's been killing it for us, though, so I love him.
He did really well for me. It sucked in Stat Hero, though. I had Daniel Jones, and I was going against Tony, so I end up losing because he goes out, and then boom, I just get nuked by Tony. I'm like, that could have been all Daniel Jones yards, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30.5 was the Tony line. That's crazy, man. Crazy. I know mine went down.
Yeah, it's gone.
They dropped off with the Chubb news, which we'll talk about that. That was our collab play of the week, and it was our first ever collab while we've been doing the show. And just he ended up. I wasn't expecting him to sit this week, especially in a huge game against Arizona. I was not expecting him to sit.
Yeah, I love Chubb this week. That was disappointing. I know I sent him that message. I was like, I know you're the Chubb guy, but I'm playing him this week. So let's get this out early. Let's beat everyone else. But
it must be pretty bad. I'm playing him in both fantasy leagues, though, so I'm okay with him sitting. But I'm happy. See, I wish everybody was like Nick Chubb, because if you're all like Nick Chubb, you just sit. You don't play 2 snaps and then lose me my money. At least you're smart and just completely sit. It's the way we should have it. Hit Brady's yards prop last night by half a yard. Nice. All right, guys. It's what you guys came here for. You came for the props. We got 6 of them ready for you. And I think we will start out. I think we're going to go in order of our lowest ones to our highest ones. So we're going to start off with your first one here, Monotone. What you got?
Yeah, so this is one that I haven't dropped anywhere else yet so far. I put this one actually in the premium group 15 minutes ago, and it jumped up to 58.5, but I'm still fine with that at 58.5. This line just came out recently on FanDuel, and it's one of the first times FanDuel's actually beat DraftKings to a line, which is great. But I've been waiting for this all week. This is the Sunday night game, so it's not going to be during your main slate. But Big Ben had his best game of the season last week. He's finally starting to look a little bit alive after a couple really rough weeks of the Big Ben experience, but now we get Now we get a Seahawks defense that is terrible, right? The Seahawks defense, they limit points. If you just look at box scores, you might think they have a pretty good defense, but they limit points because they soak up a lot of time of possession on offense. But that's not really going to happen, or as effectively, at least, with Geno Smith instead of Russell Wilson. So it's a bit tougher situation. It's a great matchup, though, on defense against the Seahawks. And then beyond that, too, Claypool has had 130, 96, and 70 receiving yards in his last 3 games. So he's hit this in 3 or 4 games this season, with his one miss being at 45 yards. But I was not high on Chase Claypool coming to the season at all, actually. One thing we saw during preseason is that in 3 wide receiver sets, this team was sitting him. He was going to the bench a lot, and it was kind of popping up on reports, but people weren't really noticing it. So I was kind of low on Claypool. But now that we're down a wide receiver with Juju, he's going to be out there in every single 2 wide receiver sets. There are only a couple of wide receivers in football that you could say they only need 1 catch to get a 55-yard prop, but I think Claypool is one of those guys. And I just saw someone real quick say, thoughts on Claypool longest reception? Yeah, that's actually what I've been waiting for. But like I said, FanDuel beat DraftKings, and FanDuel doesn't offer that prop type. So once DraftKings rolls it out, I'm definitely going to be on that too. That's why this is only a half a unit. I kind of wanted to go half and half, but I knew this Claypool line wouldn't last for long, so I had to jump on it. So like I said before, I'm dropping it here before anywhere else. Love Claypool this week. I like Deontay Johnson receptions also. Big Ben loves to throw the ball, whether they're winning or losing, and I think he's going to keep throwing it. He's coming off his best week. Let's ride that heater.
Yeah, I love Claypool. That's a really good question, Andrew. I think that's probably the spot I was going to actually bring up, but especially the way he's been playing lately, where it only really takes 1. He's got a great yard after the catch, and if he really needs to, Big Ben knows if he's throwing it deep with no Juju now, that's the guy to go to. Big Tall receiver, got great instincts going up for that ball. So I definitely think that would probably be a good line. I'd expect it around like 25, probably 24, 25 with a line of 54.5. That'd be where I expect it. Anything lower, I will probably be taking a stab at that because this guy is just an elite athlete that I think 20, if you're getting 22 to 24, that's just kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, and I mean, longest reception props are my favorite. We're going to see that more and more on the show. If you follow me on Twitter, you already know that. I've talked to this about multiple people. I think it might be the best bet prop type you can right now. I mean, these same guys that do it every week for us keep doing it, and the books are really only adjusting their line by 1 or 2 points. But when Marquise Brown misses his longest reception prop, it's not going to be by 1 point. It's going to be he has a bad game. You know, he only has 1 catch for 8 yards. That's going to be when Marquise Brown misses. He's not going to have too many 22-yard catches. They're going to be a lot of 40-yard bombs. So when you move the line from 23 to 24, they're not taking away nearly as much of the value as they think they are. So I'm going to keep hopping on these lines, and I'm sure we'll see that later in the show too. But good call on the Claypool one. I'm waiting for that one with you right there.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing comments come in, guys. We'll get to those. I just want to make sure we get at least a few props out before we get to your questions, or else we know that this kind of runs long to that 4:30, or we're getting like that hour length. That's where we want to stay at and under, just so we can make sure that you guys don't have to sit through a full hour and a half to hear our voices for that long. So,
yep.
All right. So my first one, my smallest play here. Yes, I do play 1 unit plays. I know most of mine lately have been bigger ones, but I'm going to roll with Joe Burrow this week. I believe I did have him last week. That was in a VIP play there. I had him at like 263.5 or something like that. And he ended up cashing it in overtime there. So against my Packers. So I have a good feeling about him after coming in last week. Obviously, I've been seeing a lot of reports Mixon is fully healthy, ready to roll. But I still don't see him coming back to that bell cow 25 plus carries in his first game back here and getting into 100% here. He's playing the Lions. One thing that I did not really know is that Cincinnati's got 5 games this year. 4 of them have been within 3 points. That is absolutely nuts. If we're going to have them with the Lions within 3 points, I think Burrow destroys this number. I think 300 yards is fairly easy if they're going to keep this close. Obviously, the reason why it's a 1 unit play is because of that option of getting a blowout. But we've seen it already this year. You're seeing 287 to Lamar Jackson, 274 to Kirk Cousins. They allowed almost 220 yards to Justin Fields, who's never touched 200 before this. They allowed 314 to Jimmy G, who obviously they've been running the ball really well. So now you're going to see Jimmy G drop 314 on you. That's bad. And then 255 and 4 touchdowns to Rodgers last week. I just see this as a spot where we can't really get away from him. I think that he's going to be a great DFS play sitting in that middle tier quarterbacks. He's got the big play threats like we saw last week in Jamar Chase. And now they're using, how do you say it? Azumah? Well, they're tight end.
Ozuma, yeah, CJ Ozuma.
Yeah, and he's been doing really, really well. I did check. All the doctors' reports say he's ready to go. He did get hit in the throat, I believe it was. So everything's there. Full spread of weapons. Tyler Boyd still has yet to have that monster game. I don't expect the Lions to be able to stop those slants and those short pass plays to him either. And I feel like when you have a running back coming off an injury like this, you kind of don't want them to consistently run the ball up the middle and get smacked. Let's run those screen plays, get the pressure off of them because this Lions defense is really, really bad. And the only reason this isn't bigger play is with the thought of a blowout. But I don't know how since he's been doing it, but every 4 out of 5 games within 3 points is kind of crazy. And this line will get destroyed if it is going to be a 3-point game against the Lions.
Yeah, and I mean, the books are really giving the Lions a lot of credit here too. I finished writing this one up for Vegas Insider like right before we got on here, and it's kind of weird. This line has stayed in the 2.5 to 3.5 range for most of the week, so books are very confident that the Lions hold on right here. And another thing we got to realize is Burrow hit this last week. I played this one. I wrote this one up last week. But I was scared, right? The Packers play a super efficient style of offense where they play super slow. They drain it out of you, and Burrow still hit it there. And that was in a game where Mixon did play a pretty good load of the snaps, and so did P. Ryan. So I'm not really worried about Mixon coming back. And I think Burrow continues to throw the ball down the field, especially since the Lions are keeping all these games so close. Burrow is yet to have one of these huge games. I mean, he hit this line almost every game last year when he was healthy. And I think we're slowly going to see them start to ease him back into that pace of play where they throw the ball a lot more and they stop handing it off to Joe Mixon up the middle to protect him. The best unit on this Lions defense is probably their run stopping unit. It's not that good, but their defense is really bad, and Burrow shouldn't have a problem picking them apart. So I'm not worried about this Lions blowing out. I think Burrow gets this pretty easily.
Yeah, I love it. And everybody talking about the Lions in here. I now officially hate the Lions for costing me my Jared Goff play last week by going for 2. I was so happy they lost. Screw those guys. That guy can cry in his post-conference all he wants. Why go for 2? Just kick the damn point. You were playing better. They were playing better at the end of that game. Why would you not want to take it to overtime? Yeah, don't get me started on that. They're pushing Urban Meyer range here with that dumbass. All right, I'm going to just pop in here. We got about 6 more people dropping in here. Just going to say, what's up? How we doing? 279 on Caesars. Great spot. We're looking at 58.5 on Claypool now on FanDuel. And yes, we will get to the actual betting questions a little bit later. Just running through. Uzama. There we go. Okay.
That sounds right. Uzama.
That sounded better. Thank you, Trevor. That sounded way better than my attempt. I love it. I hate the Lions. Screw those guys. I'm a Packers fan, though, as you can see right here. So it was good to get that win last week over Cincy. Speaking of the Detroit Lions, we're going to roll with Monotone's second pick. Good little transition there.
Yeah, you should have said, speaking of names we can't pronounce, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown is my best guess at it. Brother of your Packers wide receiver, Equinemius St. Brown.
Equinemius, yep.
Yeah, so we got some great names in this family. But all jokes aside, I actually think this is a great spot. I got it at plus money when it opened. It's still in the minus 120, minus 130 range, which is perfectly fine here. It should have opened there, actually, and I would have played it there with full confidence. So for the guys here that aren't familiar, I don't blame you, first of all. He's a slot receiver that plays on the Lions. Not too many people know this guy, but he was a rookie that they drafted this year. He has a similar athletic profile to me. At least my comp is kind of a Juju Smith-Schuster kind of guy. He's a big slot receiver. He's bigger than the average, Cole Beasley guy. He's pretty athletic, but he does play almost exclusively in the slot. So looking at his last 2 games, he's actually had 6 and 7 catches. And that might surprise some people if they aren't paying attention to the Lions. But over the last 2 weeks, he led them in receiving yards with 135, receptions with 13, and targets with 16. And in last week's game, without Quintez Cephas, who's out for the season now, he had a 20% or 24% target share, actually. So Cincinnati's ranked 7th in rush defense this year, and they've held some really good running backs too. We're not talking about losers. When you check the strength of schedule, it's important to check who they actually played against. But we're talking about Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, these kind of guys. I think it's a great spot. I think Goff is going to continue to have to throw the ball. Pretty much every team defending the Lions has just kind of realized that, oh, wait, let's just take TJ Hawkinson out the game and make the rest of these losers do something. And it works. TJ Hawkinson doesn't do anything anymore, and the rest of these guys have started picking up the production. So with St. Brown now kind of being almost the lead wide receiver, the lead target over these last couple of weeks, I think 4.5 is a very low number. I love St. Brown this week. I think it's a good spot. In a game they should be throwing a lot in.
Yeah, well, I agree. You can take out Hawkinson when you don't have another threat, right? You got to have it like the Chiefs, right? You can't double team Kelsey. If you double team Kelsey, you got Hill automatic 150 on you. And I think Brown's getting that. He's getting the benefit from having Hawkinson. Same thing with Swift coming out of the backfield, almost running like flex or slot receiver routes.
Yeah.
And one thing that I hate and love about the Lions when I'm going for guys that are pass catching and completions is the first quarter. I will bet anyone that they will run Jamal Williams straight into the front of that line 17 straight times and then be down in the game. And then it's perfect. And it plays into a perfect game script. They will never be winning at halftime because of how their pass or how their running plays go. It's literally just the fact that they're having Jamal Williams run for the entire first quarter and Swift barely touches the ball. And then it completely rotates in the second half because they know that Swift is the pass catching back. It's just the play calling there just is crazy to me. But that also helps the completions plays, that helps the receptions, that helps the receiving yards plays. Like Swift smashed his receptions prop last week. Obviously, St. Brown smashed his last week. It's because they always are down. They're always down, but they always make things interesting at the end, as we've seen last week. So they are a perfect team for that behind game script. And Jared Goff loves those short pass plays. And St. Brown's probably good enough and athletic enough to get those yards after the catch to make things happen there. So I like that spot.
Yeah, I think it's a really good spot. A lot of people don't know this guy. I think that's why the line opened low. I saw we had a question about what about over 5? I'm fine with playing it right there because you get the hook. Even if he cashes the 4.5, you just get the push right there. So that's fine. 5.5 is a little more sketchy to me. I would bring it down to maybe a half unit or just leave it alone. But at just 5, I'm playing it there with full confidence.
Yes, I was at that game. I was in like the 7th row of the end zone. I know they were, and then all they had to do, all they did was the Packers couldn't run, and they weren't changing up any of their scheme in the first half. And then guess what happens? Aaron Jones scores 3 touchdowns at least 2 touchdowns in the second half. Because all you have to do is get outside on these guys.
What you really meant to say right there is all they had to do was start trying, right? They weren't going to lose that game. No one thought they were going to lose that game.
Yeah, that first half was weird because it started raining and pouring. And I ended up having to leave in like the midway of the fourth quarter because it was like a monsoon, and they still found a way to just run all over those guys. So let's get to the next one. We'll get to the other stuff in a moment. I'm going to Jonathan Taylor. I had him, like I said, last week for a touchdown score. I didn't have any of his yards. But yeah, last week was like, it was weird because his entire thing flipped. He only had like 50 yards rushing, and he had 100 and something yards receiving. Now he has the ideal matchup. He has the perfect matchup this week. We loved him against the Dolphins. I know you had a play on him against the Dolphins. Now we even have a better spot. You're going against the worst now. Miami is top 5 worst. We are now hitting the bottom of the barrel in the Houston Texans this week. Yes, he has only hit this one time. I believe that if he would have hit this, like if he would have had a 100-yard game rushing last week, this line opens around 89. I bet you that's where it's going to be at. Last week, he only had 50, so they keep it low here. 80.5, minus 115. I got 1.5 units on it. Like I said, he's only hit it one time this year, but this week he's going to have his second highest advantage in run block with 39%. And this is crazy. I went through all of his games from last year too, and kind of found like, you know how ESPN pulls out those stupid stats that don't make any sense? It has like a 14-line thing of what the criteria are. So I looked into when Jonathan Taylor gets 15 carries, which his line's at 16 right now, to get to just 15 carries, and they win. All right, so when they win the game and he has 15 carries, this number is 6-0. He crushes them in most. There was a couple games with his 150 last year. But that's the thing, is if the Colts have their ideal game plan, they throw Carson Wentz 20 to 25 times and run the ball. That's the ideal game plan. That's why when someone DM'd me yesterday about Tom Brady rushing yards, if Tom Brady has an ideal game, he doesn't run the ball at all, So you got to look at what the ideal situation is for this team. And if they have the opportunity, they're just going to run this ball. They have let's go to past games here. We have Nick Chubb for 95 yards, RIP to my boy, Nick Chubb. 95 rushing yards on 8.6 yards per carry. If I'm taking away week 1 because that was Urban Meyer being an idiot, right? And week 3 was Christian McCaffrey getting hurt. So those were the 2 in there. They gave up 79 yards to Devin Singletary. That's what you need to know. 79 yards to Devin Singletary. In that same game, allowed 61 to Zach Moss. Went 40 carries for 200 yards for the Bills. And then last week, obviously, they got up in a game, which was crazy. Patriots obviously still came back. Harris had 14 for 58. As a team, they went 30 for 127. And now you're getting a great run block advantage. You're getting a great runner, straight running back here. And I think that, honestly, I saw somebody post about his carry line. I wouldn't be surprised to see him touch the ball 20 times in this game. And now we don't need to pass. Like Baltimore, in that game, they all just condensed down and made Wentz beat them. And yeah, that's why the screen game opened up so well. I think that this game is going to be a bloodbath. I think that he's probably going to hit this in the first half. But yeah, I mean, this team is bad. Like, it is really, really bad.
Yeah. And I mean, this is like Jonathan, like I bet on Damian Harris last week, and Damian Harris was down 4 offensive linemen. Just to give you guys some context, got injured in the fourth quarter, got benched for a fumble in the third quarter, and had 58 rush yards on 14 attempts. Like, he was in like the worst possible situation. No offensive lineman, nothing right there. And he almost got this number. And now we got Jonathan Taylor, a guy who's legitimately talented, right? Like, I don't know what's going on with this team and why Jonathan Taylor doesn't touch the ball 25 plus times every game, or, 20, 17, that kind of range, where he really should be. Carson Wentz isn't lighting the world on fire, and Taylor's really good. Like, I think this is what it comes down to. There are some guys where I'll only bet rush yards and I'll never really touch carries. And Taylor is one of those guys, because Taylor is a 10 for 90 written all over him. He's a very good running back. And despite the fact that this team repeatedly doesn't give him the volume he deserves, he still kind of makes it work. So I'm pretty confident that Taylor gets the job done. And I actually think the Texans keep it close enough where this is very hittable. Like, a lot of people are saying, what about Marlon Mack? They want to trade him, so they're going to get Marlon Mack in there. That's not actually how it works. Coaches aren't thinking that on the sideline. They're not, how do we best trade this guy? That's for management to deal with. Taylor will be in there as long as this game stays close. And the fact that the Colts are 10-point favorites in this game is ridiculous. The Colts suck. The Texans suck too, but you shouldn't ever lay 10 points on the Colts. I think this is a close enough game where Taylor gets there in like the third quarter, probably ends up over 100 pretty easily.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the worst thing about this whole thing is the Colts are 1-4, and they're like 2 games out of the lead. It's so bad.
It's
by far the worst division.
It's terrible. It's hard to watch.
All right, let's I'm going to pop through some of these questions quick. Lamar passing open at 225 on DK. I don't know if these two are, and then it's 240 on FanDuel. Oh wow, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar, my biggest play of the week, it's not on the show because the line moved, unfortunately, but it's Lamar rushing yards. So I understand the passing yards appeal. They're kind of disrespecting him. He's crushed this number this year, hit it in every game. But you do have to remember the Chargers do have a very good pass defense. So that's all I'd say there. I'm more of a rushing over passing this week for Lamar.
Yeah, I would want to know what his rush attempts are at. Because,
it's like 10.5, 11.
Yeah, because they're going to run a run funnel. It's just, how can you run funnel the best run team that the NFL has really ever seen? That's what I'm curious how the Chargers are going to figure out this game. All right, we're just going to do a couple more before we pop on over. What does 1U, 1.5U, and 2U mean? So as guys who handicap here, we like to kind of track for you guys so we can kind of be transparent and so you guys can kind of know how much money you're actually making. If I'm just throwing, if I have a good week and then just throw more money the next week, I'm just throwing units out the window, right? So it's bankroll management type of stuff. So like, say my unit is $100. If I say a 1.5 unit, I play to win my unit. So I would play to win $100. So on this last play that I just had, I would bet $115 to win 100. And then 2 unit would be, I would do 230 to win 200. So that's kind of what we mean. And that's kind of how much we wager. Obviously, I don't know how, it doesn't matter how much a unit is. It's just making sure you can easily track it.
Yep.
Right.
It just makes it easy for all bankrolls, right? So I'm up 22 units this season. So for a 100-unit better, that's $2,200. For a 50-unit better, it's $1,100. Just kind of, it's easy to do the math. It's easier for everyone than putting dollar amounts.
Yeah, it makes you a lot more disciplined too. Because if you just win a bunch, like if you won your, like last week, I think was my biggest week. It was like 16. I had like 16 units from Friday to Sunday. And then if I would just roll those over and just blow it up, like I can easily lose all that money I just won. And then it's kind of screwed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, but I would also say if you're betting smaller amounts, it doesn't really matter, I guess. If you're not saying I'm not like unit shaming or nothing, but I mean by like if it's just casual, like $5-10, then it doesn't really matter. It's like when you're starting to get like when you're paying for VIPs and you're doing that and you really want to build your bankroll, then yeah, I would say you definitely need to understand it to really make some extra, like make your money grow.
There are a lot of new people in this space too, though. So we got to make sure, I get this question probably once a day. I'm perfectly fine explaining it every time. There are a lot of new people. We want to make sure that they're up to speed, that we don't want to make the rookie mistakes that we might have made. So.
Oh yeah. My degenerate self in college. That's what you're talking about.
Parlay time. That's how I think.
Oh, I know, dude.
It's
like, my God. $50,000 I could win on this. Yeah. Well, there's a reason why it's 10 to win 50,000.
Yeah. All right. You want to get into the next one right here?
Yep. Let's roll.
All right. So now we're going with CeeDee Lamb over 24.5 longest reception. I just put it catch because it's less characters on Twitter and I need every single one for these tweets. But yeah, longest reception is what it should say on your book. And CeeDee Lamb's been great this year. So I played this last week for a half unit. I probably should have played it for a little bit more, but I was a little skeptical on what this team would do. But I wanted to see it for sure, and I saw everything I needed. So Lamb is now 4 for 5 on this number this season with a 49-yard reception, a 44-yard reception, a 34-yard reception, a 31-yard reception, and then his one miss was 7 yards. So if you remember earlier, I was kind of hinting at this, that these misses are either going to be there or the player's just going to have a bad game. So the fact that they moved this up only 1 point from last week was ridiculous, right? I bet this confidently last week. I saw everything I needed to see, and they move it up 1 point for a guy that he doesn't even – I mean, you can move it up 3 points, and I would still consider playing it. So far this year, the Patriots have allowed 10 receivers in 5 games to hit this number. So that's pretty much on average 2 a game. And Lamb is – just crushing it. The Patriots defense just got absolutely shelled by Davis Mills last week, right? I mean, he was throwing it up to guys I'd never heard of, Chris Moore, just these practice squad adjacent guys that he's just chucking deep balls to, and they're catching it over guys like JC Jackson, who are very well-known cornerbacks. So the Patriots defense isn't as scary as it might make it out to be. It might be one of those that's living on name value. Like I said, 10 receivers have already hit this number so far this year. CeeDee Lamb, I really do think he is one of the better deep threats in all of football. Like, I don't think there are many better than him. And Dak is just going to have to keep throwing it up to him. A lot of people think the Patriots keep this game close. All the money seems to be on the Cowboys, but a lot of sharp money is definitely on the Patriots. So there are a lot of people that really do think this is going to stay close. I don't think it needs to. Like I said, that's why I like these plays that are just one catch. That's why I went with this over 75 receiving yards. So I really think Lamb gets there pretty easily. What I saw last week from Davis Mills against this Patriots defense gave me a good amount of confidence that one of the most up-tempo defenses in the league could do the same thing. So I'm in. I love it this week.
Yeah. Again, so I always kind of bring it up to MMA, so if you have a under, you want to have 2 guys that can get there, right? 2 separate actions that can get there. CeeDee Lamb has 2 separate actions of how to get there. He can take a bubble screen and take it 25 yards. Absolutely no problem. He could still beat you deep too on those pass catches over the top. It's the same thing with like your Deshaun Jacksons, all those guys that really don't need much space to make things happen. And CeeDee Lamb, I mean, when I'm looking at these longest catch props, you want a good quarterback. And why would you not want to go with it when you have Dak Prescott throwing you the ball, especially that deep ball, which he honestly is pretty damn accurate with.
Yep. I mean, that's a great point. I didn't even mention it, but yeah, you want to match up those elite quarterbacks with these elite receivers, and I think that's exactly what we did here. I'm not worried about this Patriots defense. If you are scared of a guy like J.C. Jackson, he is going to be lined up against someone like Amari Cooper significantly more than C.D. Lamb too. So I think it's a great matchup, a good big name kind of guy that we can all get around. And if you're going to watch this game like everyone else in the world, get some action on something other than the Cowboys spread. You don't want to be on those lines with 99% of the cash. Just switch to a player prop. Get CD Lamb in there. You get something to root for.
Yeah, and that's why, dude, honestly, if I probably have taken a straight spread twice this entire season. I don't bet spreads because you have the full week of sharps, public, all throwing all this type of money on these things that these lines get so sharp. So sharp. It's probably within one or two of that line, probably like 60% of the time, right? So why not just go after something like this? Go after a yards prop, something that not everybody can do, because not everybody takes the amount of time that we go into these and dive in, right? So the props are going to start blowing up, right? Everybody's going to start doing them because they're starting to realize, oh yeah, Vegas is pretty good at these spread things. They've been doing them for long enough, So yeah, this is definitely, I like this spot. I think CD Lamb is definitely the receiver to use if you're going even in DFS over your Amari Cooper as well. I think that he's definitely the guy to attack there for sure this week. And I'll check the actually, let's just finish my last one. Whew, all right. This is my banger, guys. This is my big one of the week. This is my biggest play. Almost hit a max play on this, but I'm going with a 2.5 unit. This will be my first 2.5 unit on the show. I've done quite a few 2 units. I think we're hitting around 70% of my 2 unit plays on here. But yeah, this is my banger, guys. I'm rolling with Patrick Mahomes over 308. I saw this on Caesars about 2 hours ago, 308.5, minus 115. And we have a Washington football team facing Patrick Mahomes. We are seeing an implied total of this game at 56.5. 56.5 total here. Washington has allowed 293 yards per game. In 2 of those games, I think one of them was Jameis Winston, who didn't even need to throw. Alvin Kamara ended just nuking him last week. He only had like 215. So if we're looking at guys on Patrick Mahomes' level, they faced 2 of those guys this year. We've seen Josh Allen and Justin Herbert face these guys this year. All right. Josh Allen put 358 on these guys and dropped like 30? I think it was like 35 or 40 on these guys was the total of that game. And then Justin Herbert drops 337. All right. Now we get an upgrade, not an upgrade, but a tick up in usage from CEH being out. We have Vegas's line for his completions at 27.5. And when he is completed 27 plus pass attempts in a game, or 27 completions in a game, 27.5 completions in the game, he's 6 for 6, averaging 380 yards per game in those games. If this game comes anywhere close to what Vegas is expecting here, he is going to nuke this line. I really think that this line is dependent on the Kelsey and Tyreek Hill news. I've looked on their site. I've looked on the beat writers. All of them say they're both expected to play. Once that news comes out, I won't be surprised to see this go up a couple extra yards. And we've said it before when I take in Mahomes props. When you see 300 plus on these lines, it scares people away. They're like, holy shit, that's a huge game. That's a big game. Well, you're going with Patrick Mahomes and probably the best duo of receiver tight end in the entire NFL. It's not even close. And Washington is a pass funneling team, right? We take the Chargers. They're a run funnel team, right? You take the 2 deep safeties. Now you got Washington. Washington played the Bills this year. You heard that Allen dropped 358 on them. They kept them to 3.7 yards per carry. That's really, really impressive. And that's also counting in Josh Allen's rushing yards, right? They faced the Chargers. Herbert had 337. They only allowed 3.1 yards per carry. So if you're telling me within the first quarter, Andy Reid is not done. I think a lot of head coaches are done with their play calling. If Andy Reid sees that 3 plays in a row running does not work, he is not going to run the ball for a whole half. He's done it before. I've seen Patrick Mahomes throw it 50 plus times, multiple times. And now you're going to tell me that we're going to have a guy like Josh Allen drop 358, and he's going to probably throw more, right? Mahomes is going to have to throw more. I dove into Williams, the new running back. I dove into his last 2 years. He's had a couple starts. The most carries he has had in a game ever in the last 2 years is 13. So if you're going to say that we're going to have probably, we'll say 60 plays on average, 60, 61 plays, something like that, and only 13 of them are going to be rushes, you're going to let me have Patrick Mahomes throw the ball 45 plus times against a defense that got shredded by Allen and Herbert that bad. Now you have a Chiefs team who is last in their division, who needs a must-win game, and has two of these guys that have not had their monster weeks yet in the same week. Like we've had Hill pop off, we've had Kelsey pop off separately. Now you're going to get them both. I think that both of these dudes need to be in your lineups for DFS. It's going to be really hard to stack all three, but if you're able to run it back with some crap team, Mahomes, I'm all over Mahomes. Everything in my stuff will have Mahomes. I will have a bunch of same game parlays for this one as well. I'm hoping Terry McLaurin plays here so I can actually have a run back option in DFS. I saw he had a little ankle injury, but damn, guys, Patrick Mahomes is going to nuke these dudes. It's going to be a bloodbath on the offensive side, and Andy Reid is getting all this criticism for all this stuff. Like, is Mahomes even better than Herbert? Who do you want for the next 5 years? Mahomes has won a title already, dude. Like, I get it. Everybody's got this hype behind Herbert. Now Mahomes is going to go out there and show him why he's still the number one quarterback in football. It does not matter. Mahomes is going to obliterate this defense, and I am going to be all in on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a lot to say about this game, but you really covered everything, right? Like you got almost like that was a great handicap right there. It's a great call. I'll be tailing you on this one for sure. I mean, like you said too, we're going to talk about this game more in the DFS section, obviously, because I love a bunch of spots in this game, but this is the highest total on the slate. We've got Mahomes in a game where, I mean, this just screams bounce back, right? I'm a believer in the Washington defense. As a Washington fan, I'll get that out the way. The talent is there. The scheme is not. And this team has no indication of changing their scheme. They run a similar kind of strategy to what Kyle Shanahan does over in San Francisco, where they trust their edge rushers to get pressure on the quarterback so they don't blitz. They just let their edge rushers do their best in one-on-one situations. The problem is they're not winning these matchups. They're losing them. So the defensive line is losing, and then the secondary is just getting obliterated because the quarterbacks have way too much time. And like I said, I'm perfectly fine with firing Jack Del Rio at this point, but he has stated that he is not changing his scheme. And as long as he doesn't do that, I will not be betting this team for the rest of the season. My first bet this week was the Chiefs look-ahead line at -6.5. I think Mahomes crushes this. I have a personal bet on Mahomes over 38.5 longest completion. It's not a personal bet. It's out there on Twitter, actually. Sorry. But yeah, like I'm all over this game. I think the Chiefs are just going to destroy Washington, unfortunately for me, because I'm going to be watching this game, But yeah, I think you covered really everything. I have a lot to say, but you got all of it out the way. So we'll talk about it more in the DFS section, but I love this play. It's a great spot.
Yeah, dude, honestly, this just screams Andy Reid saying, put some respect on my damn name right here. That's all I hear is Andy Reid just sitting there with his little play sheet and Mahomes just chucking the whole time. So I'm just gonna look at the stuff that has been about our plays already, and then we'll get to our other stuff. We'll get to our DFS plays. After our DFS plays, we'll go through all these questions. I know you guys are really, really engaged. I love it. I'm very happy to see all you guys popping in here and joining us live. Right now we're at 83 live viewers, so smash that like button, guys. We love it. Appreciate every single one of you guys staying in here with us. So we have Scoop the Pot. I just got it at 308.5 on MGM, and it jumped to 313. Well, that's why you stay in here, guys. That's why you jump in here and get the plays. Obviously, we just saw Claypool jump up 4 yards in a little bit on here. I guess it only takes, 83 of you guys to throw these plays in there to move these lines, so I love it.
I quote tweeted, too. I said, PPS just dropped a 2.5 unit bomb, and the line moves, man. These guys need to leave me alone on Twitter. Ugh, it's brutal. I didn't even say what's going on. It's okay. I'm glad some people will hear about it for sure, though. Love that.
It was this close to it being a max bomb, too. It was so close. I have only done 4 max bombs this year, and because then I just feel so scared, It's like I'm like, oh my god, it's just like everything
I
comes
get
down to
that.
that.
I still haven't played a max play on my account actually. I try to be as super disciplined. That's kind of what I preach. Everything's pretty much one unit. I've only had 5 ever 2-unit plays, and they're 5-0. So I like to keep it low. I feel you there.
Yeah, that's coming from a Washington fan right here. So we're seeing 309.5 on Barstool and 310 on Fox Bet. So anybody that was in here during our live streams, grab it right away, guys, because these lines have been so volatile lately. All it takes is a couple hammers on it, and those numbers move quick. So we will go through our DFS plays right now, our top one and our favorite value. Then I'm going to go through all your guys' questions before we get to our end parlay this week. All right, So we're going to roll with our top play. Started off with you, my friend.
Yeah, so we talked about this just a second ago, obviously, but Tyreek Hill is the kind of guy that when he has a good game, you can't win without him. If you're playing a large-scale tournament and he goes off for one of these 2 touchdown games, I mean, he's going to be in every single optimal lineup. If you're a cash game guy that kind of grinds out the smaller ones, you can survive without him, but it's going to be really hard. And I think that's the kind of week we're setting up for. He's done this a couple times this season already with these dominant games. And there's just nobody to stop him here, right? When we look at Washington's kind of quarterback profiles, we got William Jackson, who's a bigger guy. He's a press corner. And he's kind of, I would say he's probably their better corner despite some lackluster performance this year. But the athletic profile really doesn't match up with Tyreek Hill. You're not going to go and press Tyreek Hill on the line of scrimmage. That's not going to work. He's going to run around you. Then we got Kendall Fuller, or Kyle Fuller, I don't remember, whatever his first name.
I think Kyle's the Chicago guy, right? Kyle.
Yeah, there's 2. I get him confused. Whatever. But Fuller, he plays a lot more in the slot this year, is what I've been noticing. He'll probably line up most of the time against him, and I'm not worried about that at all. We talked about a lot of this, and I think for run backs, I think there's some very good run backs in this game too. Terry McLaurin playing will be interesting, but if he doesn't, I think J.D. McKissick is someone who will make his way into almost all of my lineups. My value play is another player in this game that I'll also be getting to. But this is just kind of the best game to target on the slate. It's going to be pretty popular. I acknowledge that, but sometimes the chalk does win. And this is kind of setting up, especially in a slate that's not that good, guys, right? Most of these totals are kind of in the low 40s. I think we're going to have a lot of boring, low-scoring games, especially if that Arizona-Chicago or Arizona-Cleveland game has the win that people are predicting, because we know what win does to these games. It kills them. So this really might be like the moneymaker game, and I think Hill is where you got to build from. I think Kelsey has a slightly harder matchup with Cameron Curl coming from the high safety position. I think he'll line up a lot more. That's what they did against other good tight ends. Not that that's going to stop Kelsey. I mean, no matchup is going to slow down Kelsey. But yeah, I love Hill. I would pair him up with Mahomes. I'd pair him up with J.D. McKissick, and I'll pair him up with a guy we'll talk about after you get through yours too.
Yeah, and honestly, I know we always talk about injuries, right? We always talk about injuries and how it screws us sometimes. This game shows you how injuries, I'm not going to say helps, because I never want anybody to get hurt, but injuries almost help you in this spot because it takes away a lot of the peripheral options. I've seen Curtis Samuel that might not play this week.
He's not playing. No way he's playing.
Yeah,
no way.
CEH is out, right? So now all those peripheral guys that have chances to get the ball are out. So now these lineups are so concentrated that if you don't have there's so many low guys. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about your value play because I love him too this week. I have him in my lineup I made already on yesterday. But this game screams full game stack, right? Because Washington is cheap as hell. If you don't want to play Mahomes, Heineke on FanDuel is like 7,000, 7,200. That's cheap enough for you to grab Hill and Kelsey. Give me a run back in McLaurin. It's just like there's so many options for this game. And all you need to do is sprinkle a couple things maybe from that Chargers game in Baltimore, and you're sitting pretty good. It's just that you have to pick the right ones here because there's so many good options in those 2 games that you just kind of have to pick the right ones to really get that GPP money that we all are really looking to get,
Yeah, and also if Curtis Samuel does play, don't touch Curtis Samuel. He re-injured the same groin injury that was keeping him out in preseason, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Curtis Samuel doesn't play at all for the rest of the year. For whatever they're doing to fix this injury situation, it's just slowing him down. It's not doing anything good. So if he's out there, it'll either be solely as a decoy, or I do not think the production will be there at all. So if he is, honestly, I don't want to say it's a good thing, like you said, but if he is active, that is a good thing because he will draw ownership, and I will not be touching him.
Yeah, no, I think that's the spot to go. 56.5 is an absurd total. Absolutely absurd. So I'm on Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, I mean, I don't really know how much more I need to talk about him. I think that 7,500 is a great spot for us because you get underneath a lot of those big backs, right? You're underneath your Henrys, you're underneath all of like the big name backs, like maybe some Aaron Jones in there, Delvin Cook's like $1,000 higher. And if you really do want to target these big games like Baltimore Chargers or the Chiefs here, getting a good back that has the upside of Taylor and only paying 7,500 for it, I just think it just screams I need to have him in my lineup, whether it be in the flex spot or just throwing him in like RB2. I think it's a great spot. I also love that McKissick look because I think I have him in 2 of my lineups this week. He's like 5,200. He was my second option for my value play, but I saw we already had quite a bit of stuff in this game. So, I decided to switch it up, and we will get to the value there. But, yeah, I mean, I don't really know how much more I need to talk about Jonathan Taylor.
All right, we're going. Another piece in that game, Ricky Seals-Jones, tight end for the Washington football team. So a lot of people might not know who this is. Just to be clear, get it out the way. He's kind of a journeyman tight end. He's athletic. He's a good pass catcher, not a great blocker, but he's coming over this year. And last week was his first start. Logan Thomas is out. He's probably going to be out for a couple more weeks. And Ricky Seals-Jones played in 99% of snaps last week. Really, with tight ends, all we can ask for is them to be on the field. Tight end is the biggest crapshoot every week. You have to kind of hit at a tight end to do well in DFS. And Ricky Seals-Jones is just kind of setting up to be that guy. He got a couple red zone looks last game, which is also huge because if you score a touchdown, you're probably a top 10 tight end that week. So I think he just kind of has all the skills we want. He's in a game with a high total. He's going to have red zone opportunity, and he's going to be on the field for over 95% of the snaps. He ran a lot of routes last week. He wasn't out there blocking. He's a capable pass catcher, and the coach is talking about getting him even more involved this week. So it's pretty simple. I think there's a couple of good tight ends I like. There's another one, Dan Arnold, who I've been waiting for player prop lines for him, but it was between those two guys. I went with Ricky Seals-Jones. I put my money where my mouth is. I have him over 3.5 receptions and over 31.5 receiving yards. Bet this week out on Twitter already. So this is a guy I'm a fan of. He even caught that game-winning touchdown pass against the Giants before he was even the starting tight end. They trust this guy as a receiver. They trust him to get open. He already has 2 touchdowns this year, I believe. So I'm going to keep it rolling. I think it's a great play. He might be a little bit popular, but I'm willing to eat that this week.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, I already have him locked in one of mine. I'm on Mac Jones. Cowboys have shown the ability to stop the run, right? And if you're able to stop the run here, I believe they had last week, they obviously had Saquon go out against them. Booker only was, I think, 16 for like 50 or something like that. Really low yards per carry. And Josh McDaniels he came out and said they're starting to find their identity on offense, right? But you can find your identity as a run team when you're winning, right? I don't see them beating the Cowboys here. I would give them probably like a maybe 35% chance, 30% chance, which is pretty low in the NFL here. Dak's just been playing way too well for me to take a shot on the Patriots. But if we have a spot where we need Mac Jones to toss it around like we did see in the Buccaneers game, 6,500 is a great value spot. Like if you're trying to, like obviously I like Heineke, but I think his ownership is pretty high right now. If I'm looking at another spot where I want to get in like Tyreek Hills, I want to get in Jonathan Taylor, Kelsey, I want to run it back with McLaurin. If I want to get those big guys, we need to go cheap somewhere else. You went into that same game. I'm going to a completely different spot. I think that I don't need much, right? I don't need much from Mac Jones here in this spot to really hit his value that I need. He's hit double digits in 4 of 5, 15 in 2 of those 4 that he went over there in double digits. So if we're getting 15 to 20 points and I'm getting 25 plus from 2 other spots, we're already at hitting like 70 points and I got 5 guys left. I'll take that. I don't need that much to hit value here for Mac Jones, especially when he's playing a lot better.
Yeah, and I mean, also, this is kind of an easy stack, too. If you just want to have a mini stack, you get him, you match him up with Jacoby Myers. The slot has done pretty well against the Cowboys this year, especially with Diggs out on the outside, most likely locking down Aguilar. It should be a pretty good spot. And then you add in Hunter Henry at tight end, too. You have three very different players. And Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henry start makes you different than the majority of the field. Like you said, you can be cheap, and then you can throw in guys like Travis Kelce, like, all these guys we want, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor. It's a good setup, and I think it's a good spot, too. It's a sneaky spot for sure.
Yeah, mini stacks for sure. You can run it back. Ton of Cowboys that we like, too.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go through some of your questions quick. Coming in, we're about 5 minutes off from an hour here. So we'll try to go through them quick, keep it around that hour time. So we're going all the way back to early in the show. We have thoughts on Fields under 206, under 29.5 attempts. Do you have any thoughts on Mr. Justin Fields playing at home against my Packers here this week?
Yeah, I mean, he's went well under the attempts in both games. I would lean attempts over yards. It's kind of, I don't want to touch this offense, honestly. It's really tough. The Packers play so slow. It's super hard to play against the Packers. If you're not familiar, it's not something that shows up in the box scores. You kind of have to watch the games. They control the time of possession, and they score very efficiently. So it's annoying. It's annoying to play teams against the Packers. I had Burrow last week, like I said, and watching it took him a long time to get there. I mean, the Packers just had these really annoying drives where it's just AJ Dillon, and then switch it up with Aaron Jones. So I would lean under on the attempts. It's one I like this week, but I have a hard time trusting anything that the Bears do. So I'm going to stay away personally, but I lean under for attempts for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, I would check weather. I know right now it's not really nice right now here. I'm in, obviously, the Milwaukee area. I'm about halfway between both, and they're in Chicago. I would say I would stay away too. I wouldn't have any bets on this guy. Packers find a way to play well in Soldier Field over there. I just, when a guy has a 206 pass yards, it's hard for me to take it under because, like, if you get like I said last week, I had Carson Wentz over 226. That man threw a 75-yard touchdown pass. He's already a third of the way there, So 206 is a really low number. I don't think he's going to get there, but there's so many things. Mooney's screen pass. I mean, Jair's out. So, I mean, you can throw it up to Allen Robinson. I mean, they have to open up the playbook here at some point, especially with now their number 2 running back out. I mean, it could be just a toss the ball around, obviously not well. But, yeah, it could be one of those games. You never really know. I don't trust the Bears by any means.
Yeah, this game's just a void. That's for me, at least.
Do either of you like T. Higgins longest over 22.5 or Chase over 26?
I mean, I think Chase is who I would go to here first. Higgins, that feels like a fair number. Chase still feels a little low. I know it opened 25 yesterday. A lot of people were hammering it, though. Prop bet guy was on his over yards, which kind of brings everything up along with it. It's a good spot. I mean, the Lions just get burned deep every single week. It was in consideration for a play for me. I have a lot of these longest completions or receptions already. So I would lean over on Chase, and then T. Higgins. It's hard for me to predict him, really. I mean, with Tyler Boyd there, with Jamar Chase there, it feels like he's a little bit of the odd man left out right now. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with this team. But I think if I had to play one of these, it would be Chase longest receptions, just because he keeps doing it, and the Lions secondary is really bad.
Yeah, I would lean the exact same way. I don't really know how I trust Higgins yet coming off that injury. I know he was out for a couple weeks. You never know how easy it is to re-aggravate it. The reason I like Chase, obviously, besides the same thing we talk about Lamb, ability to make the short play turn into a long play, is also, we saw it last week, Jamar Chase's 70-yard touchdown. That was a completely broken play. So that means you're seeing Joe Burrow completely lock in on someone. He went all the way to this side, hit that sideline, came all the way back and hit it. We've seen Detroit not be able to pressure the passer. If we're going to have a long play like that, I see Jamar being his first look for that deep play. And I think that would be definitely the best spot of those two for sure.
Yeah, Jamar Chase might, just real quick, Jamar Chase might be one of those guys who want to sneak into those DraftKings lineups too. The more I think about it, the more I mean, he's very capable of 270-yard catches in this game against Detroit, especially with that lack of pass rush. So that could be a sneaky DFS spot for sure too.
Joe Burrow over 1.5, Rodgers over 1.5, Dak over 1.5. I'm not gonna say I'm nervous about Dak, but you never know with Zeke too, because the Patriots have been susceptible to the run a little bit. And I mean, we've seen it where they've run the ball in. I think there's been multiple games with multiple rushing touchdowns. I know that's what killed everybody with Jalen Hurts, right? With his over 1.5.
Yeah.
He scored 3, but we're only getting passing touchdowns in this. I mean, I think that Joe Burrow one too. I mean, you could see Mixon in there. I think the Rodgers one's pretty safe. I think that Rodgers always shows out against the Bears. Not always yardage wise, but I know a lot. 1 or 2 years ago, he had a couple 3 touchdown games in there too. But yeah, I think I would lean Rodgers the most. Burrow second, Dak third, just because I'm nervous with Zeke. Zeke's been playing well and he's been eating.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to add to this. I think the problem is each one of these teams has a running back that I could see ending up with 3 touchdowns by the end of the day. We've seen Aaron Jones do it all the time. We've seen Zeke do it. They love giving Zeke the ball, especially in the red zone. They also have Pollard there. And then Burrow, Mixon not as much, but I could still see him stealing a couple touchdowns. So it's kind of 50-50 for me. I see why you like it, but I'm pumping the brakes a little bit.
For sure. Your Renfro play.
Yeah. So I actually am not playing this week. I'm perfectly fine fading Renfro. So pretty much my philosophy on this game is that Denver has one of the best slot corners in the league, and people don't talk about slot corners, but luckily my colleague over at Bet Karma writes a cornerback versus wide receiver article every week, and in this article he mentions the Denver slot corner every week, and he's right every week. So I'm going to keep trusting him right here. Hunter Renfro gets a really tough matchup. What we've seen is you can take the top off this defense, and I think that's what Henry Ruggs is there for. So I have a bet on Henry Ruggs over longest reception. That'll be my only play in this game. I'm kind of staying away from the rest of it. I think Renfro, it's a perfect letdown spot, so the books lower the lines next week, and then maybe we get a 4.5 to jump back on next week. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, Vegas ain't dumb, right? They're not dumb.
It actually opened at 5.5 too. For people that aren't paying attention, it opened at 5.5, lowered down to 4.5, even to standard juice now too. So the books know an under is pretty probable right here.
AJ Brown over 56.5 versus the Bills. I mean, he's got to show me something first. I mean, I've got to see it first. That's why week 1 is so hard to bet on, because you haven't seen anything, right? This is. I mean, he had a great spot last week and shit the bed with 3 catches only, So I've got to see it happen first. I mean, it's a great line. I know everybody was on AJ Brown last week, and he let down everybody. So I have better places to take my money to than to ride in on AJ Brown.
Yep. Also, I think the Bills are just going to crush the Titans too. I don't trust any Titans, honestly. So I'm with you. I got to see it first too. I got burned last week on 50.5. He didn't even get there.
He was on my fantasy team starting too. I think this is for the Mahomes. Yes, I would play at 311. I'd probably go up to like 315. If I go up to 315, it'd probably go up to I'd only probably ride it for a unit or so. Unit and a half, maybe. What do you think about Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns? I think that's a great spot. Pittman, I don't even know if they're going to need to pass. So I would probably pass on Pittman. Yes, on Mahomes.
Agreed. I'm with you right there.
We already talked about all those, I believe.
Oh, Jacoby Myers isn't there. I mentioned him real briefly. I like Myers. He's been on my radar all week. He might be a play for me. It's a good matchup. Diggs is going to be on the outside. He's already kind of the number 1 guy there. I think receptions could be sneaky for Jacoby Myers. So that's the only one we haven't talked about. I do think that one can be sneaky. I'll be looking even closer at that one after the show.
All right, Jason, my guy. Jason, do you like over 17.5? I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent on this. I think it's a good line. I think he does get a couple rushes, but I mean, last week, I think this number's kind of in that weird middle spot because Washington is pretty good against the run. was able to stop Josh Allen from running very well. And you're coming off of a Mahomes week with a huge rushing upside day. I think he had like 50 yards rushing. So I usually don't like to take the over after a big game over the original line because I feel like Vegas is just baiting me with a lower one,
Yep. If this was like 12, I'd be interested. But my thing is play quarterback rushing against deep safety teams. Washington doesn't really fit that mold. They're a good rush defense. It's a pass for me. I agree with indifferent right there.
Yeah. Any prop looks on Randall Cobb? I think your best bet on any Randall Cobb is anytime touchdown scorer. If anything, Randall Cobb gets the initial look always in the red zone from Rodgers. He's the guy Rodgers trusts a ton. Obviously, not the most with Devontae Adams on the outside, but Robert Tonyan has taken 17 steps back this year from the tight end position. That was who he was looking at in the red zone last year. It's been taken over by Cobb. I don't know what happened to Tonyan this year, but he has just been absolutely bad. I think he's only scored one touchdown this year against the Lions.
It's on my fantasy team, man.
Yeah, and he's just been absolutely terrible. He was too busy promoting tight end with whoever the fuck that was with. That was terrible. He should have been doing all the other stuff for getting actual work in because he has just gone completely downhill this year. And Cobb is taking all those red zone targets, so good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you know that Tonyan only has one game over 10 yards this year? It's ridiculous.
Dude, it's just bad. It's tough. It's tough to see that. Njoku coming off that massive game opens at 23.5 seems interesting. Vegas, is it dumb, guys? If it's too good to be true, just kind of fade it off. If a line literally just screams like that, then I can't. I don't know. Something screams that. Maybe now with no Nick Chubb, maybe a little bit more action. I wouldn't be surprised to see that pop off a little bit here. Same thing with Hunt, obviously. Direct correlation there, but I mean, I could definitely see it this week now with no Nick Chubb, but I would assume that with his new line coming out, it's going to be pretty decently a little higher.
Yeah, Njoku is the guy I'm never going to bet, right? I mean, he's coming off a good week, but you got to remember they're in a 3 tight end rotation. Most teams barely even use 2; they use 3. Hunter Bryant and Austin Hooper are both there playing pretty comparable snaps. So, yeah, like you said, Vegas is smart. This kind of feels like bait, so I'm going to stay off too.
Daniel, I believe you Monotone talked about over 3.5 or over 4.5 catches.
Yeah. So I talked about he's my value DFS play of the week. If you missed that, and I played him over 3.5 receptions and at over 31.5 receiving yards, each a half unit bet. The receiving yards at 34, and I would still play it there too.
I will never bet on Urban Meyer, so I won't take an money line.
I don't have any interest in that game. I've had to write it up twice this week. Twice. It's a shitty game. I don't like waking up to these bad games, but it's okay. I'll survive.
So last one here. Got to roll. You guys rock. Always good listen. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. We put in the time. You guys lock it in, get that money. All right. That's all the questions there. We are to the last segment of the show, which is our touchdown parlay. Not to say anything bad about PSG prop guy, but if we would have played just R2, we would have cashed it. So I'm going to count it as a win. We had Mike Williams and you had Kareem Hunt, correct?
Yep.
So now we're going for 2 in a row. I'm going to count it. I don't care. I'm still going to count it. Could have had it in the same game parlay, thrown it in there.
Yeah,
we're going
a little simpler this week. We're not reaching for the stars or anything like that. But Ezekiel Elliott has some pretty crazy red zone usage this year. Pollard has been getting the job done, but once they get in the red zone, it's giving Zeke the ball, and he's shown multiple touchdown per game upside. There really isn't much to say right here. Zeke is kind of clearly their red zone guy. Once they get in the red zone, they run a lot. I don't think a lot of people realize this. When Lamb and Cooper get their touchdowns, it's normally from outside of the red zone. It's normally on longer passes. Once they're in there, it's either Dalton Schultz at tight end or Ezekiel Elliott in the end zone. When we limit the options to that little, I think Zeke's a good spot at -115. I think it's worth a sprinkle on its own. And in this parlay right here too, I like it. So I'm locking in one of the 2 NFC running backs right here.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Antonio Gibson. I know his shin injury. Everybody's kind of talking about it, but the thing is if it was that bad, right, I can't assume there was no one play that it happened. So he had to be playing through it this entire year. It's not like it was like a one hit. We heard our shin, right? It's been the entire year. He's shown explosiveness this entire year, and he scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. When I have a running back scoring touchdowns, I love to have the option of a reception touchdown, which I believe he showed 2 weeks ago. He had a receiving touchdown. So 3 straight games of touchdowns. Last week was 2 touchdowns. And I mean, as much as you can hope, the best way to keep Mahomes down is to just keep running the ball. I think that Gibson gets a lot early on, but I think that they get to a huge deficit. So I do like having Gibson in that red zone. They do like to bring him in at like that 5-6 yard line and him just to pound it in. It kind of sucks having Terry McLaurin on your team when you just get vulture touchdowns. He takes you all the way down there, and then Gibson vultures your touchdown. But in this case, I hope it happens because I like Antonio Gibson to get in the end zone for his 4th straight week.
Yep, I think we got a winner right here, guys. I think we didn't shoot for the stars. We went a little play-in, and also on top of Gibson, I don't know what McKissick's odds are, but I think McKissick could be a little bit sneaky there too. I'll have to check both of those out after.
All right, we're at 1 hour, 10 minutes. Last question here from our guy, Rough G Productions. You have any opinion on Chase Edmonds over 61.5 rushing receiving?
No. I mean, like, it's a split backfield. He's a little banged up from everything we're reading. He didn't play a full workload last week. Instead, we saw James Conner. He didn't hit his receiving yards total for the first time last week, possibly because he was a little bit banged up. It kind of depends on if this is a real crazy win game, then I'd be more interested. But I think we just see a more Conner-heavy game script this game. So I'm personally just kind of leaving that one alone.
Yeah, with no Chubb, I kind of assume Arizona has a better chance of winning this game, kind of throwing that ball around. I think you're really going to need probably 45 to 50 of those yards through the air because Connor's been kind of that bruiser back there. So I would probably be off for this play as well. Wow, would have thought Monotone would drop Gibson. Great show. Best of luck this week. Thank you, guys. I think that is every single thing here. We will do a quick recap since I just realized I did not put the ticker on the bottom, which I always do. I don't know what has been going through in my head here. But let's go through our recap here, and we will start with your 3 here.
Yep, so we started out with half a unit for Chase Claypool over 45.5 receiving yards. It jumped up. I'm playing it anywhere under 62.5 for half of a unit. And remember, we're watching out and we're waiting for that nice longest reception prop to drop on DraftKings. That's another good spot. Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're one of the 2 Brown brothers with great names. Over 4.5 receptions. I would play it up until about minus 135 range. I think that's where it's good. And then finally, another unit play, CeeDee Lamb over 24.5 longest reception. Talked about it earlier. Love the spot for CD.
All right, my 3 plays for the week are going to be Joe Burrow over 280.5 minus 110 at 1 unit versus the Lions this week. Rolling with Jonathan Taylor over 80.5 rushing yards, minus 115. Going to throw 1.5 at it. And the banger, I guess it's at 312 now, which is unfortunate, but good for everybody in here. You guys deserve to grab that extra money, grab that extra meat on the bone. 2.5 unit, first 2.5 unit of the show career for me. So I like that. We're going to 2 of our top DFS plays. I will be rolling with Jonathan Taylor. Mr. Monotone on Tyreek Hill, looking in that nice same game for the value of his guy, Ricky Seals-Jones. And I'm going with the disciple of Tom Brady there, Mac Jones at 6,500. And the last thing, I'm rolling with Gibson, getting that end zone. I believe it's plus 120 on his own. I think Zeke's minus 110. Gets us to a nice, good 320 parlay piece there. And yeah, we're looking to improve on a 24-11 overall play there. Before we head out, I guess we got 2 more things in here. Like Heineke over 1.5 before McCory injury news. Yeah, I think he does. I think they're going to score enough. They're going to have to. Garbage yards save fantasy weeks, guys. Garbage yards still count.
Yeah, for me, it's a no bet with Terry possibly if he is out. But I read a report that Terry's probably going to play. So I think Terry plays, and I think he probably gets there. But if he doesn't play, I'd be a little bit more scared.
Yeah. Is Zeke and Gibbs? Oh, no.
Don't drop that there.
Hold it up. Put that stop sign up. That is not 2.5 units. My 2.5 unit play is Mahomes. That's what we have for fun. I would never recommend you throwing, like, if you had a $100 unit, throwing $250 on that parlay of our touchdown.
That would not be a good look for my Twitter DMs after this. Like, what the fuck? Why did he tell me to play this? You know.
But yeah, so Mahomes is the 2.5 unit. Zeke and Gibson is. I usually just throw one unit on those just for fun on those. So. Last thing we were looking through. Great stuff as always. Thanks, fam. Appreciate you. Appreciate it. So, yeah, we're going to be signing off for the first time with our show name of Pass the Prop over here. Week 6 edition. You have anything else, Mr. Monotone, that you would like to say to the people before we dip out here today?
Yeah, I mean, last thing is, got to check out the Twitter. It's right here, Monotone Football. Yeah, I mean, everything's going to be there. We still have plenty of games without props. So I only have about 6 right now. Last week when we recorded this, I had like 12 maybe. So we'll get a couple more over the course of the week. So don't miss out.
Yeah, always have the notifications on. We try to drop free stuff all the time over there. But yeah, very exciting time getting in the middle of this. Now we're going to have NBA possible. We've talked about possibly doing NBA shows because we both do NBA just as much, if not more, with the more games and stuff. I love doing NBA DFS. I think it's really fun. I think that the props there give you good lines as well. It's just crazy with injury news. That's the crazy part about NBA. But I think Pass the Prop can be a multi-sport show, and I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. Appreciate it, Buck Dancer. 100%. Got to do an NBA show. Yeah, we might have to. We'll figure it out. We'll get you guys the details. But until next time, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next week, same time, with 6 more props that we like. And then you guys can lock in and cash with us. So have a good one, guys. We'll see you next week.